It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Just acknowledging knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder. It's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
You heard the man, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends. Welcome. Topic Thunder coming to you live on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, all the good stuff. You know, that cavalcade of social media. I'm Brooks, and that's my pal. I guess that way. That's my pal, Ben. And we call ourselves the Internet Saloon. So pull up a chair, belly on up to the bar as we pour out delicious drinks for everybody in the form of topics to discuss. And boy, there hasn't been any news made lately, has there been?
Like just after, literally after we went off the air last week, there was giant news that we're going to unfortunately be a little bit late on, but still worth our attention.
If not rage. And of course, we're talking about our lovely Supreme Court, and we'll get to that in just a bit. Not to downplay it, but as you may or may not know from last week's episode, hello everybody, and yes, the world's most dangerous chat room is alive and well and already buzzing about with a certain amount of angst, and I feel like people are ready to kind of unload. So we're not going to take too long. But I do want to remind everybody that I got one of the 3 little gifts from Wifo Supreme, and she included several different whiskeys in these little kind of mason jar things. So this one is the Barrel Dovetail. It's whiskey aged in rum, port, and Cabernet barrels.
Whoa.
So yeah, it sounds pretty intense, right? And last week's was pretty delicious. So this is all
last week's was almost the first ever 5, right? Or did we give it a 5?
Yeah, I think we did give it a 5.
Brooks bolts. So the bar has been set, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to find out. Can Dovetail live up to the precedent that has been set by Wifo Supreme?
Sounds like a sandwich, doesn't it?
A Wifo Supreme. Yes, it sounds like a delicious sandwich that you'd get at a Jewish deli. So.
Oh, hold on. Here we go. We're gonna try the.
By the way, yeah, Wifo Supreme Jewish deli.
Book it.
Meanwhile, I will enjoy my black cherry sparkling water.
Okay. This has some bite to it. This has wow. That is a punch right in the face. If you're not ready for that, that's wow. Everything is warm. Incredible warm sensation. Like it literally just exploded down, up and down my face, all the way down into my chest. Incredible, like you can. There might be too much going on for my undereducated palate. There is a lot of flavor in there, and the least of which is whiskey.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it has that burn, so it has that traditional whiskey burn. Like I said, it was pretty pronounced.
And yes, Courtney, she does have a name, but Wifo Supreme is way better.
And we try to respect the anonymity of those that might not be so willing to put foolishly put their real names out there on the internet.
Yeah. We did once have a guest leave in the middle of the show.
That was great. I still have that episode too, and we might because the shitty thing is, Ben, I remember that obviously, and it ended up being like one of our best ever efforts. Because we were so devastated by what happened, didn't know what was going on, that it ended up being some really good broadcasting, if I do dare say so. But unfortunately, lost to the archives is that one. That's
that one out. Once it's definitely like there's definitely going to be no blowback, we'll bring that one back out for y'all, because it was an interesting day to say the least. Where we mentioned we just said the word Nazi, and it just unraveled everything.
Oh gosh, man. And seriously, I have the text messages as an archival, like of everything that was going on. And I'm not just talking one person. I also had to deal with the husband. But I guess that story is for another day. We're gonna give this one. Again, I think some of this is going to be lost on me because I can tell you I can taste the rum, but I really can't taste the rum. I get a whole lot of flavor, that's for sure. So we're gonna give this one four out of the five, and try to recalibrate what those they don't mean anything. Those numbers don't mean anything. It's a Brooks Bolt though, nonetheless.
All right. So that takes us. Hold on.
Yeah, that takes us to a place that, well, okay, strategically placed. Headlines, the very creative title of this segment, featuring headlines. There's only one headline right now, and what's going on here in the United States, and I feel underqualified and simply uncomfortable talking about it because one thing I've learned, not only doing the show, but over the last handful of years now, that is sometimes as a white male, sometimes you just need to shut the fuck up and just listen. And it's no fault of your own, because I would consider myself an ally. I would consider myself on board with all this stuff. But again, it's terrible.
Yeah, it really is. You're right. There's two white dudes that are speaking on this subject. We don't have a whole lot of say, though. I will just say that I have listened to those that it is affected by, and more than I certainly, and so I can convey some of the arguments that I speak not on behalf of, but in support of, in kind of reiterating things that were told to me to kind of overcome some of the arguments from the other side.
Always researching what both sides are saying, and that's why we do the show. We like to kind of come from both sides and educate ourselves, really. And of course, folks, we're talking about the leaked memo of the draft, I guess, written by a very strange little man, Justice Samuel Alito. And out of all the stuff regarding this, I found this to be the most crazy, was his historical reference for the overturning of the historic and 49-year settled law, Roe v. Wade. He cites a one Sir Matthew Hale. Anyone?
Why does that name sound familiar? It sounds somewhat familiar, but maybe it's just because it sounds familiar.
McHale's Navy? I don't know. He was a 17th century jurist, so a judge over in England. So you might be asking yourself, well, wait a minute. Why isn't a sitting American Supreme Court justice citing an English judge from over 300 years ago?
For anything, yeah.
Yeah, for anything. Well, that would probably be the number one the thing that I found the most disturbing about this. So this is from a gentleman named Ken Armstrong, who's a really good follow on Twitter. Once he saw the leak report and draft, he went on this ginormous Twitter thread, which he later then condensed into this article for our friends at ProPublica.org. So again, from Ken Armstrong, dateline May 6th. When Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, in a draft opinion obtained and published this week by Politico, detailed his justifications for overturning Roe v. Wade, he invoked a surprising name given the case subject. In writing about abortion, a matter intricately tied to a woman's control over her body, Alito chose to quote from Sir Matthew Hale, a 17th century jurist whose writings and reasonings have caused enduring damage for women for hundreds of years. The so-called marital rape exemption, the legal notion that a married woman cannot be raped by her husband, traces to Hale. So does a long-used instruction to jurors to be skeptical of reports of rape. So, in a way, do the infamous Salem witch trials, in which women and men were hung near the gallows and Gallows Hill. Hale's influence in the United States has been on the wane since the 1970s. Let's repeat that. Hale's influence has been on the wane in the United States since 1970s, where we were just 40 years ago listening to somebody's wildly radical opinions of 300 years ago. But all right, guys, we stopped listening to that shit in the 70s. Come on now.
I mean, how can any judge that is supposed to be worthy of the Supreme Court, how can we take them seriously when they are invoking an idea that married women can't be raped by their husband?
We're going to get into it. We're actually going to quote the
How
man.
do we get to that point? How do we trust anything that this man says when this idea is running through his head? He is clearly unfit for the position that he is told.
Oh, Ben, my friend, we're going to get into the thoughts of one Sir Matthew Hale, the thoughts he had on women.
I'm sure I'm going to be really fucking red-faced and angry.
As should everybody, to be honest with you, that this guy in 2022 would even reference this. So back to the story. In Alita's opinion, it resurrects Hale, a judge who was considered misogynistic even by his era's noticeably low standards. So even back then, they're going, man, that guy's out there. By the way, cinch up, make sure your women are, the life for a woman wasn't so great 300 years ago. And this guy was on the fringe element then.
Right.
Hale once wrote in a long letter to his grandchildren, over 206 pages, what some will quote. He left a letter of advice. He had a lot of advice for women, this guy.
I bet he did. Man,
this guy.
Everything.
He wait, let me get back. Hale once wrote a long letter to his grandchildren dispensing life advice in which he veered into his screed against women, describing women as chargeable, unprofitable people who, quote, know the ready way to consume an estate and to ruin a family quickly. Hale particularly despaired of the changes he saw in young women writing, and now the world is altered. Young gentlewomen learn to be bold and talk loud. This is from the man himself. They know how to ready consume an estate and ruin a family quickly, but neither know nor can endure to learn or practice the ways and methods to save it or increase it. And it is no wonder with great portions are expected with them, for their portions are commonly all their value. And commonly within a few years, nay, possibly a few months, they run their husbands into debt or spend as much money as their portions come to. And then they are sort of chargeable, unprofitable people. They neither know how to housewife or manage what is left unspent.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And Gigi's right. The original incel. This guy is terrible on every level. And history now can look back at 17th century asshole and know and laugh at and mock how ridiculous his ideas are. Like, we know, it's plain to see. We know how ridiculous and outdated and misogynistic every word of what that guy wrote was. And here we now flash forward to fucking, let me check the calendar. Oh, 2020 fucking 2. And we've got a Supreme Court justice fucking quoting this asshole on abortion? Fuck off, man. Fuck straight off.
Alito, in his draft opinion, invokes eminent common law authorities, including Hale, to show how abortion was viewed historically not as a right, but as a criminal act. Quote, two treaties, this is from Alito, 2022, last week. Two treaties by Sir Matthew Hale likewise described abortion of a quick child who died in a womb as a great crime and a great misprison. Even before quickening, defined by Alito as the first felt movement of the fetus in the womb, which usually occurs between the 16th and 18th week of pregnancy. Hale believed abortion could qualify as homicide.
Who gives a fuck what this guy thinks about anything? Who gives a shit? Nobody. No, why does anybody in fucking 2022 give a shit about what he thought about anything? He didn't even have an inside fucking bathroom. Fuck off.
And okay, so in the 70s, we started like saying, yeah, this guy probably a little bit crazy, right? So, state after state started kind of revoking what they held, right? Except for one really, really, really big thing. And that's jurors in a rape case were warned ahead of time and have been almost to this day warned ahead of time to beware of the false accuser. Because in the pleas of the crown, Hale called rape a most detestable crime. And then, in words quoted many times since, he wrote, "It must be remembered that it is an accusation easy to be made and hard to be proved, and harder to be defended by the party accused, though never so innocent." He had a series of questions that he would read to a jury. Oh, by the way, which were all men at the time, all white men at the time.
All very white men. Yeah.
Probably landowners, very well to do. I'm just guessing. I wasn't there.
It wasn't the guys working as the janitors or whatever, the equivalent.
He would ask the questions. Did the woman cry out? Did she try to flee? Was she of good fame or evil fame? Was she supported by others? Did she make an immediate complaint afterwards? So
we know, again, psychologically, here we are 300 some years later. We know psychologically all those things are not, they're not signs that rape did not occur. We know that. I mean, this is established science, I think, at this point.
It goes on. This goes on. He's not done. So this guy, in 1662, Hale presided in a jury trial in Bury St. Edmunds, in which two women, Amy Denny and Rose Cullender, were accused of being witches. In a book on this, A Trial of Witches, authors Ivan Bunn and Gilbert Geist wrote that by 1662, quote, belief in witches was in retreat in England. Hale, however, was not part of that retreat. He believed witches were real. Quote, Hale represented not mainstream position, but rather one of rapidly becoming anachronistic. End quote. A written record of the trial accounts of what Hale were told the jurors. This is a quote from a man sitting, presiding over the trial that involved people's lives. Square this away and smoke it before you hear it. Quote, that there were such creatures as witches he made no doubt at all. For first, the scriptures had affirmed so much. Secondly, the wisdom of all nations had provided laws against such persons, which is an argument of their confidence of such a crime. That was his justification and for reasoning for believing in witches, is because that scripture told him that, and that everybody was saying it. Does that sound familiar? A lot of smart people are saying, everybody's talking about all these great things that we're doing. Nobody's really talking, but everybody's talking about it. Doesn't that sound familiar? Doesn't that sound like a tried and true trope, a weapon against the truth?
For sure.
Let me quote, and actually, there's actually a nice picture of this. When the guy who wrote this article first quoted it on Twitter, he misrepresented and said that the letter that he left for his 5 grandchildren was 182 pages. In fact, he found a different version that went on for 206 pages.
Imagine your grandfather fucking gives you a 206-page fucking manifesto of fucking misogynistic fucking nonsense on his deathbed. Here's the world. I'm going to explain the world to you here in these 206 pages. Shut up, old man.
If what we haven't presented so far didn't cement the idea in a rational person's mind that this guy was an absolute buffoon and his word should not be held.
There's more?
Oh, wait. I want to go into this letter because some of the juiciest stuff is in this letter. This is where the crazy really flies out. You know, when he's not writing laws, Ben, and he's not judging people's souls and sending them to death for their being witches, he has a lot of life advice for his grandchildren.
I bet he does.
So to his grandchild Mary, he wrote, "She possessed great wit and spirit, and if she can temper that latter, will make an excellent woman and a great housewife. But if she cannot govern the greatness of her spirit, it'll make her proud, imperious, and revengeful."
So don't be just be a housewife.
Chill
if
out.
you could get rid of your spirit, if you could stop being so spunky and, go get them, you could be a great housewife.
It's the 17th century way of saying you need to relax.
Chill the fuck out.
You need to calm down. About his granddaughter Frances. Family, right? Family. He wrote, "Possessed a great confidence. If she can be kept in some awe, especially in relation to lying and deceiving, she will make a good woman and a good housewife."
Oh,
We see a theme building here.
yeah.
My granddaughter Anne, who he thought possessed a soft nature. She must not see plays, read comedies or love books or romances, nor hear nor learn ballads or idle songs, especially such as are wanton or concerning love matters, for they will make too deep an impression upon her mind.
Don't ever let her listen to any music whatsoever or experience art in any way, shape, or form. Just completely keep art out of her life in any way, shape, or form. That is what I want you to do for this woman.
And
that's a great advice, Grandpa. Thanks.
And get Anne a coloring book forever. Right. She's not allowed to see plays. No. Like, what are the forms of entertainment? We're not talking like she could sit there and put it on the internet or turn on a radio, right? You're pretty limited as far as your forms of entertainment, especially like I would imagine that his family was well-to-do if he's like this, bigwig judge, that his family probably has some kind of providence about it.
Right. Yeah. CJ, you're right. She's furniture. Like that's exactly what it is. Like what is your purpose if to not like experience art and the idea of love and the emotion? Like anybody that's ever listened to music knows what it does for you. I mean, what the fuck?
No, just talking about my Trump. You're talking about my Carl Spackler. They're just the way things are. It's just we're very calm. We're not on the amphetamines right now. We're on a kind of loopers. A loop the loopers. Hale complained in his letter that young women make it their business to paint or patch their faces, to curl their locks, and to find out the newest and costliest fashions. And with that, he was just getting started. This is 160-word sentence. Get ready, because here we go. If they rise in the morning before 10 of the clock, the morning is spent between the comb and the glass and the box of patches. Though they know not how to make provision for it, they must have a choice diet provided to them. And when they are ready, the next business is to come down and sit in a rubbed parlor till dinner come in. And after dinner, either to cards or to the exchange or to the play or to Hyde Park or to the impertinent visit, hello, and after supper, either to a ball or to cards. And at this rate, they spend their time from one end of the year to the other, and at the same rate, they spend their parents' or husbands' money or estates in costly clothes, new fashions, chargeable entertainments. Their home is their prison, and they are never at rest in it unless they have gallants and splendid company to entertain.
That might be the first recorded run-on sentence in the history of the written word. How that is all one sentence is amazing. And his use of comma and semicolon are extensive.
For the record, Homer's The Iliad is technically one sentence.
Really?
And it's like 400 pages long.
No shit.
Yeah. So it's famously like, the like this ginormous run-on sentence. But yes, he 160 pages basically that right like what he 160 words that basically say like what he he thinks women do all day, or at least what they should do all day, right? Again, Sir Matthew Hale was a outsider in his times, on the fringe in his times 300 years ago. To have a sitting Supreme Court justice who, by the way, let's look at the score here. Let's look at how these 5 justices got on the Supreme Court, right? Clarence Thomas was George H.W. Bush, right? And if you know anything about Clarence Thomas, you'll certainly remember Miss Anita Hill. And she literally, in front of Congress, even in the 80s, like late 80s, a black woman testifying before Congress at that time was the epitome of guts. All right. Even though she was accusing another black man of sexual improprieties, or at least lewd comments, and harassment. I believe it was the pube on the Coke thing. If I remember right, he made some sort of joke that he saw a hair on a can of Coke and like, pubic hair, blah, 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 which a lot of people will be like, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, to a lot of people, it is a big deal. And we should know better, either then or in the 17th century.
You're supposed to be a Supreme Court justice. You're held to a much higher standard of what type of person we expect you to be. If you're going to have a job, mind you, that comes as a lifetime appointment. There is no end on the job until you say I'm done or you die. So it's kind of important that we hold those people to a much higher standard, which makes the last 2 the slap in the face that many of us were screaming and yelling that they were when they were happening.
There's a lot to unpackage with our Supreme Court, right? And it's the world's most dangerous chat rooms already bringing those points to light. If you don't know who Ginny Thomas is, Ginny Thomas has been implicated in a whole lot of January 6th shenanigans. And in fact, she was one of the fundraising leads that we mentioned in the shortly after January 6th. On this very show, we mentioned her name as somebody that had assigned permits for groups of people that can also then use that that permit area they were as a launching pad and a staging area to make an advance into the Capitol. The same Jenny Smith or Thomas, who had direct communications with the Chief of Staff Mark Meadows at the time of and leading up to the insurrection. And then the same Clarence Thomas, who was the lone vote against 8-1. The lone vote against releasing these White House records that had his wife's name everywhere. So that's problematic right there. We just got started on the fire.
And that is super problematic because it's obvious what happened there. He voted against it for personal reasons. He did. These Supreme Court justices are not supposed to bring their own personal politics to the job. That's part of the job requirement. That's why they go through the interview process in front of everybody, so that everybody can feel confident that there are no conflicts of interest, that they are going to just look at it from a, what does the law say? What does the Constitution say? And interpret it that way. That's it. No politics involved. That's the way it's supposed to have been.
I don't blame Clarence Thomas on this because he's clearly playing the game, right? I blame John Roberts, the Chief Justice, for not forcing Clarence Thomas to recuse. John Roberts was reading the same events, the same testimony. And unless he was trying to like put it out there and make a covert political statement by saying, yeah, this guy's all over it, maybe because it is 8-1. Maybe I'll let this guy hang out there and people can start seeing some of these things.
That's what it is, yeah.
Well, because he maybe saw the score of what was happening now, right? Because we're going to move on to the next one, because it was Judge Alito, Antonio Alito, I believe. That was the next one. And here's the catch about this guy, right? He was appointed by another Bush, W, right? Anybody remember what happened in that election?
Oh yeah, that there was something.
There was something about that, right?
It was a hanging chuck. Huh?
Was there something in Florida?
Was a
So
something
a recount?
hanging Chad.
Hanging Chad.
I knew there was something.
That mysterious non-recount, in which, by the way, Gore won the popular vote by 500,000 votes that year. That recount in Florida gave us George W. Bush. All right. Everybody remember that.
Yeah, we were supposed to have Al Gore as a president.
Literally, we're technically yes, but now we're talking about the law. It's all over, right? Now none of that stuff matters now, right?
Yeah. Then a couple planes hit a couple buildings, and then suddenly nobody cared.
A couple of friends send some planes into some buildings. Now you have an excuse to turn the whole world upside down.
Saying, if you were going to be a conspiracy theorist about the whole thing, there are certainly motives for allowing your friends to fly planes into the Empire State or into the World Trade Center.
But
just saying, because there were major investigations going on into that election, and there were billions of dollars, if not trillions of, I don't remember, dollars missing with a T. Yeah, trillions missing from the Pentagon. Reported this the day before. So if we're looking for reasons to distract people by throwing some fucking planes into some fucking buildings, those might be good enough reasons, I think.
You know, Ben, this is Governor Jesse Ventura, and I'm down in Mexico right now, but I've got maps. I've got maps that prove the Saudis were involved, Ben. I've got maps in Mexico in my secret hideout.
I bet he does. It doesn't mean that the blind eye wasn't fucking turned.
So that's how we got Judge Alito.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's two, right? Now we get to it, right? Now we get to Gorsuch. And you remember what happened with Neil Gorsuch and why Neil Gorsuch is on the Supreme Court? It's because of the shenanigans that Mitch McConnell played. That he would not call to committee the nomination of Merrick Garland. Refused, stating he was basically a lame duck president. It's an election year. We can't do this. There's no precedent for this. Which there actually was a precedent for it. But,
Whatever.
Who am I?
Don't let the facts get in the way of a good fucking political rant.
Just to let you know, like, I'm no Senate historian, so Mitch McConnell, I defer.
Don't let facts get in the way of bipartisan politics.
So we get Neil Gorsuch right after the election, right? And I'm sure Mitch had no idea who was going to win there. None. He just happened to be hanging on to this one candidate, right? So that's how we got Neil Gorsuch. All right, cool. Oh boy, because here comes the double main event. Brett, motherfuck you, Kavanaugh. Probably the biggest disgrace to the Supreme Court. There is no doubt what happened with Brett Kavanaugh. And it's called the Federalist Society. In fact, 4 of these people that I just mentioned, their names belong to a group of people called the Federalist Society. And if you're not aware of who they are, that is a show plus to go over what they're all about. But let's just, in a nutshell, make it seem like it's a group of people with a very, very narrow agenda that have been working this agenda for decades. Remember, we like to talk the long game and not the 4-year, the 2-year, 4-year, 6-year, even 10-year political cycle. Talking the long game, right? So here we are. Federalist Society gives us Brett Kavanaugh. After they pay off his gambling debts, after they pay off his mortgage.
Really going out of your way. I want to stop you there, because there is somebody in our government who has on the floor of Congress more than once exposed the Federalist Society and exposed the dark money that is involved in the choosing of Supreme Court justices. And his name is Sheldon Whitehouse. He's an amazing man. And there, if you just type in Sheldon Whitehouse Federalist Society, there's a number of speeches that he has given. Now they're about 20 minutes because I think you get 20 minutes to speak because they're all around that 20 to 30-minute thing. But this guy comes prepared with fucking shit on on an easel with fucking shit to point to and look at and information and quotes. I'm telling you, this is a guy. I'm surprised he's still alive, quite frankly, because he is out there exposing all of this and what has been going on. And it is these very elite people that are not only picking the Supreme Court justices, they're very, very, very influential in picking federal judges, the judges that are right underneath the Supreme Court, the ones that don't have as much grandeur and they don't have the big, interview in front of Congress that the whole world gets to hear about on the news. No. Those get handpicked, and those get handpicked by the president, and they get that job, and they're handpicked, many of them, by people like the Federalist Society and other dark money groups. So please check it out. Sheldon Whitehouse. He's done a ton of stuff. Anything he's done on the floor of Congress is worth watching.
Well, Ben, it's Jesse Ventura again. And when I was a Navy SEAL, not a lot of people know that I was a Navy SEAL, Ben. I don't ever talk about it. But when I was a Navy SEAL, they told you secrets. They told you who was in charge, and they told you where the black money is. And as a Navy SEAL, it's my responsibility. I'm losing a little bit, but yeah, that's a really bad impersonation of James Adomian's fantastic impersonation of Jesse the Body Ventura, including a WWW, which I think is the greatest thing ever. So anyway, yeah, James Adomian for that impersonation. But yes, the Federalist Society and actually Sheldon Whitehouse, right?
Yep.
A Twitter file, fantastic Twitter file, because he's on this and he's connecting the dots, and we're talking about people like out of college clerking for certain judges or certain law firms, and there's this connection of dark money and influence, and these clearly very partisan, is that a nice way of saying it? Very partisan politics that should have no place in the Supreme Court of the United States of America. Brett Kavanaugh. Obviously, if we didn't have another woman stepping forward in the guts of Dr. Christine Ford, Blasey Ford, I believe, and saying the most terrible things, again, like Anita Hill, this time a white woman against a white man, stepping up in front of Congress, testifying, putting her soul to bear, reliving the trauma of a sexual assault on TV, on C-SPAN, and to be then dissected like she was, dismissed, and just not listened to, not being heard. And now we have somebody that in Brett Kavanaugh said, yeah, women's rights. And last but not least, the handmaiden herself.
This one's the most egregious, obvious slap in the face in the history of the Supreme Court.
Amy Coney Barrett. You belong to a cult. Legitimately. And I forget the name of it. And somebody in the world's most dangerous chat zone can refresh our memories. But she belongs to a cult that honestly believes everything that nut Andrew or Matthew Hale thinks about women. That they are support vessels to men, that they are here to serve men, that there is no matriarchy, there is only the patriarchy. And to quote a nameless ghoul, it's the voice of the righteous dogma that hides the handmaid's tale. Because here you have somebody screaming and preaching the Bible and the words of their Lord and Savior, Jesus H. Christ. I never once
or Jesus H. Christ to tell a woman that where their place was. In fact, Christian historians will tell you that he had a wife that was right there with him.
Oh, she was a prostitute.
Oh, but she was a prostitute, right? Let's not count the fact that she went with him everywhere. Oh, I could get started on this. Don't get me started in Christian history. Holy shit.
Yeah. That's another whole rabbit hole we can go down, but not
not tonight. Now we're trying to focus on right here and right now, right?
Other than her politics alone, how she got the job is the most egregious and insulting of it all. Because as we just spoke about with Gorsuch, Mitch McConnell stood there and told us we can't allow Merrick Garland to become a Supreme Court justice. We can't allow his nomination to move forward because it's the end of Obama's presidency and he's a lame duck president. You can't do that. Fast forward, and 4 years later, 90 days, less than 90 days, I believe, before the election itself.
She got confirmed 8 days before the election.
Right. And Mitch McConnell was called out on, like, hey, you're this is really hypocritical. And basically it was like, yeah, and what?
What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you gonna do about it? He's literally like he literally swinging his dick in front of the American public, going, "What are you gonna do about it?"
For me, this is the point in our history where there's no longer a veil or like a show being put on. At that moment, Republicans said, "We don't care what the rules are or what fair play is. We're not playing fair. Let's be very clear. We're not playing fair, and we don't care we're not playing fair." And here we go. And we thought maybe it cost them, right? Because it cost Trump re-election, maybe, and it cost Republicans a number of seats, and Democrats took control. However, Democrats have continued to play as if the game is the old game. They are refusing, other than people like Sheldon Whitehouse and AOC, very few Democrats are willing to say, fuck it. They don't want to play fair. We need to stop playing fair. Bernie Sanders today, I just read it. He put out a tweet today saying, if Republicans can end the filibuster to jam through a Supreme Court justice, Barrett, then we as Democrats should end the filibuster to codify Roe versus Wade, cancel student debt, and do all the things that we said we were going to do. Stop trying to play fair. Stop giving into this Tulsi Gabbard. If we all just got along and worked together, fuck off. The other side, the Republicans, do not want to play fair. They have no interest in it. They don't want to do it. They know they don't have to do it. And so that makes it that much more important that they can never regain control. Ever. Because if they do, they've already told you they will do everything they fucking want. And there's nothing that us liberals can do to stop it. And they don't even have to. Now we're seeing they may not even have to have control of the House and the Senate and the presidency in order to get their agenda. No. They don't need that because they've got the fucking Supreme Court in their favor. And that trumps all of it. I mean, you got to stop this idea that partisan politics is something that is ever going to happen in this country again. Those days are over. The Republicans burned that bridge with Coney Barrett. Plain and simple, there's no going back from it. There's no other way to interpret what that was. That was a shot across the bow of we're not playing by the old rules.
The game's changed. The game's changed, and they
don't realize that we're all fucked real hard.
So it's a minority rule at this point, right? Because let's do the math. 84 million people, popular vote. 84 million people voted for Biden, right? A very loud and vocal 71 million people voted for Trump. 101 million people sat it out. Sat it out. Now, if we're doing like I think still population wise, it's not exactly 50-50 male to female, but let's just say it is 50-50. All right. So we're talking what? 50.5 million men who have moms, wives, sisters, daughters, aunts, friends that are now up against it because we didn't even get into, and I don't know if we have time to get into the litany of state laws that are now being passed in their individual houses of Congress. Things that are to make an IUD illegal. Things to make the day after pill illegal. Things to track women's periods. An alert went out from some very sophisticated people.
There's an app that apparently a lot of women use
to track their cycle.
Telling me about this, that they're wanting access to that information.
They want to know when you're ovulating and if you stop ovulating, because that means you're pregnant. This is not just a one-off.
And you think if Texas already instituted a bounty system,
could you imagine what Alabama's waiting to do?
And Mississippi?
Are you kidding me?
It's going to be a literal manhunt for doctors and women that are getting and performing abortions. We're going backwards. That's the difference. Like, you talk about the two different sides. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
My wife and my daughter both use the app. Like, no way should anyone have access to that information. A government and then have any sort of influence on your life as to poking their nose into, well, what are you doing? What are you doing with that? Are you pregnant? And what are you going to do with that pregnancy? We're going backwards. One side wants to go backwards. That's where we're at. They want to go back,
dragging the rest of us backwards.
The other side, you may not agree with everything that the other side is doing, right? And there are some extreme policies, defunding the police, student debt cancellation, Medicare for all. Those are all extreme ideas.
Agreed.
But they're all ideas, the idea of progress. And we're making progress as a society.
Like helping people.
Forward. We're helping people. We're being better instead of dragging it backwards. And so for me, that's what is so frustrating about politics to me, because for me, it feels like any sane human being who just wants to realistically just take a step back and assess the situation. How can you choose the side that so desperately wants to go backwards and be fearful and reject a side that wants to move things forward? I know neither side is perfect, but on its base, that's what we're talking about: progress or regression. And regression is winning. It's crazy. It's 2022, and abortion is about to become illegal.
Here's an even crazier idea. What if I told you that these fine, clearly well-educated, whatever you feel about their politics, white people are making this Roe versus Wade situation illegal to, quote, increase the domestic supply of infants? Have you read this? Have you seen this? The intimation, I believe it's I forget who originally quoted this idea, but this is a belief that there were three things you could do about losing white America, right? You can try to kick everybody out. Really not going to work out, right? I guess you could try to kill people. We're doing pretty good at that, people of color, right? Or three, you can stop abortion and just have as many white babies as possible. Because this isn't really like, I would venture a guess, and I wouldn't bet money, but maybe $1 or so. I would bet that a majority of abortions performed in America are from white women. I don't think it's like a prophylactic for the black community.
And that's what a lot of people believe. They have this image of a young black woman who's gotten 5 or 6 abortions because she doesn't want to use a condom.
Doesn't know the father, doesn't remember, doesn't all of the stereotype and racist tropes. And she's going to get an abortion. That's what they think. And of course, obviously, we don't even have to say how much they care about the baby after it's born, and we don't even have to even go into about how much the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of less government.
Right. We'll ignore that because that's so obvious. Does it really even need to be discussed?
It's beyond. This might be one of the worst moments in America. I mean, I'm not trying to COVID, 9/11, Pearl Harbor, polio, whatever. But this is some of the darkest shit that's happened in a long time. And like you were saying, Ben, it's backwards. This wasn't supposed to be. This is minority rule. This is, I believe, some polls, 60 to 70% of Americans believe in the right of abortion as a method of health care. 60 to 70%. You can't get 10 people in a room and have 6 or 7 of them agree on something so inflammatory.
Right.
So inflammatory. But they will agree the right, and maybe you have personal beliefs. And I respect that. All right.
What you would do is one thing. Yeah, you're entitled to that opinion and right to choose whatever you want.
But obviously, and it stops right there. Whatever you think, whatever you would do, don't get an abortion. Then go ahead and have that. Go ahead and have that baby that that your uncle raped you, and but you believe in it. You believe in the sanctity of life. Go for it. And I feel bad for that child because it's not going to be loved. It's going to be hated. It's not going to be well supported. And we're going to have more societal problems because of these problems. Or maybe we're going to have more soldiers.
More poor kids that will sign up for the military because they've got no other option. There is that element of it too, man. I mean, there is a number of tentacles that reach out in this, and the world's most dangerous chat room points out too, this does open the door for a number of other things, like same-sex marriage, like interracial marriage.
Oh, I wonder what Clarence Thomas thinks of the I think it's Bellingrove. I'm not sure if that's the correct name, but that was the name of the case.
Same-sex marriage is like Ober something.
Right. I forget the names exactly, but I've been reading a lot about them. Like, it's not over. They don't make a stab at a power grab like this and stop, especially when they've won.
Right. This is the Ben Shapiro agenda.
Oh yeah.
He is the root of this kind of, and this is his agenda. Are these super religious things? And he believes this is a Christian country that, or not a Christian, but a religious country that should be ruled under religious rules. It's insane.
Sharia law is basically what he wants, right?
Yeah, and I know we've sat on this now for 53 minutes, but I think it's been a great discussion, and there's a lot to talk about here. And one thing we haven't talked about, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this, is when this gets leaked, right? The reaction from some Republicans, some top Republicans, some of the most vocal Republicans, like a Ted Cruz, their reaction to this story was not, "Oh my God, we're going backwards. Are we really doing this? Like, we're really here? Holy shit!"
Are you really quoting a 17th century British judge?
I'm Ted Cruz. I'm a Harvard Law degreed student, so I should know better. And that should be my reaction: is whoa.
Wait, did he just mention hail?
We're repealing Roe versus Wade, and we're quoting a 17th century asshole. What? No. His reaction was, "This leak is the worst thing ever. Oh my God, we need to have an investigation to know who this leak. The leak. Oh my God, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to the court ever." And it's like, Well, why, Ted? Why? Oh, because the Supreme Court didn't get to surprise us?
There's some interesting takes on this. And the first question is that everybody wants to know, like, oh, it had to have been some liberal, that leaked this because they didn't like it. Well, to what avail? What does a liberal have to gain by releasing this, causing strife and everything? That would have came anyway. I mean, the Supreme Court has made their decision.
Yeah, exactly. The decision comes out, the reaction from liberals is the same. Yeah.
Or if you're a conservative and you really like that the judge writing the opinion is quoting a 17th century British jurist, you really dig that, and you want to make sure that they don't go backwards on anything that's been released in the original opinion, lest they seem weak now in the public eye, because it's just the first draft. Right. Admittedly, there would be several drafts of this that in a normal process that, somebody would go, like, I don't know, a chief justice would go, okay, Samuel Alito, let's not reference a 17th century British judge.
Probably not a great idea.
Probably not. Just read the room, read the tea leaves, maybe just read a newspaper and see the temperature of society right now. Maybe some other route.
Right.
It would behoove a conservative. Either wanted to, like, basically put this in stone, or go, holy shit, I didn't think they'd do it.
Right.
But they did it.
Yeah. Again, and there is also the conservative too, which I think you're right on those two, but there's also the conservative along the lines of the Lincoln Project guys that I could see releasing it saying, I'm a conservative, but this is too far. And knowing that the backlash was going to be heavy, that's what I think is most likely, is that whoever, liberal, conservative, they released this first draft because they knew the backlash was going to be extensive, and they are hoping that peer pressure, for lack of a better term, comes down on these judges and changes their opinion on this. I do believe that, but although you've opened my eyes to this idea of another type of conservative being involved in it, that's certainly something that you cannot discount. If I were in a court of law, it is certainly plausible that is also the case.
And also beware of the Lincoln Project folks, because that looks more and more kind of like a bit of a scam. They've pocketed a lot of money for themselves in that, and I'm sure that they've contributed to certain Democrats, but certain other ones they stayed away from. So they're not totally what they seem to be, although for sure, Rick, I can't remember his last name right now, and then Stephen Schmidt. Well, actually, Stephen Schmidt is now just went nuclear on Meghan McCain. Apparently, Stephen Schmidt worked on one of John McCain's presidential campaigns. He was instrumental in selecting Sarah Palin as VP. And I guess recently, either yesterday or this morning, just let loose with these horror stories about Meghan McCain being a Hurricane Meghan, I guess, like just being an awful, awful person, which you don't really need much experience watching or listening to Meghan McCain to know that she's probably said, "Do you know who my father is?" at least a dozen times in every half an hour of her life.
She does have that look about her. She is.
Do you know who my dad is? She's the female embodiment of that Aqua Teen Hunger Force group that was like, my dad owns a dealership. You guys, my dad owns a dealership. So so just beware with the Lincoln Project folks, because that they've made a lot of money for themselves, going out there being never Trumpers. But they didn't say much when Kavanaugh was up, and they weren't saying much when Gorsuch was up. So just beware that they have an agenda too. Although, admittedly,
I was using them as an example of a Republican who is willing to speak up when the Republicans get real out of control, like with Trump.
Sherry Jacobs, Sherry Cheri Jacobs would be one I would point out. She was out there way ahead of the Never Trumper curve. on CNN saying that this guy is bad, and stop getting invites to appear on television. Shortly thereafter, he was then buried by the GOP. A fascinating story. Sherry Jacobs, somebody that truly has conservative views in a good partisan, like I'll work with you kind of way. But if you want to see what the machine can do to somebody that's not on board, just look at Sherry Jacobs. And she's also been very vocal about calling out the Lincoln Project folks. So Sherry Jacobs would be that story. Ben, I had a whole show planned out. I knew this subject was going to take some time, but I didn't honestly think it was going to take the whole show. But it's a good conversation to have, right? Especially again, like just hearkening back to the start and the top of the show, how we admittedly will tell you that as two white men, we really need to shut the fuck up. But it doesn't work for a podcast, just two dudes sitting here, like not talking. So the conversation with you, our audience, the world's most dangerous chat room, is what is most important here. And I know I
want to get to, like, so we were pretty heavy on this abortion story, right? But I would feel bad if we didn't have our weekly segment where you give us some sort of scary story about what's happening in the world. And this story that you have about the dead animals.
Oh yeah, that one's kind of big.
That one's kind of big, and I think it's worth touching on. I know we're up against the clock. The lightning round is just around the corner, and we've been pretty. But I like to scare people, and this is kind of terrifying.
Man, I've got a terrible joke. I'm just gonna do it, and I'll take my bullets later. Oh, we're gonna be talking about regulating women's vagina to a bunch of dead fish. Ha!
Hey-o!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is from The Guardian. Millions of tons of dead animals, the growing scandal of fish waste. And all you got to do is scroll down a little bit, Ben, to see what we're talking about, because there's a lot of dead fish in that picture. In February of 2022, a Dutch-owned fishing trawler released a silvery stream of 100,000 dead fish, which carpeted several thousand square meters of ocean off the coast of France. The vessel's owners blamed the discharge on a faulty net. Environmental groups alleged that the fish were intentionally dumped. Whatever the truth, the spectacle of the squandered sea life was the tip of the iceberg. Figures from the WWF show that the 2019, at least 230,000 tons of fish were dumped in EU waters. Most of the waste, 92%, is related to bottom trawling, a fishing method that scrapes the seafloor, indiscriminately scooping up everything in its path. That picture, ladies and gentlemen, is just a part of 100,000 dead fish that were just thrown into the ocean.
What's up on the screen? It looks like one of those artworks where if you stare at it long enough, an image appears.
A sailboat is a schooner.
Yeah.
There is no Easter bunny.
You dumb asshole.
Yeah, or some intricate stitching pattern. Like somebody spent a lot of time making that. No, it's dead fish. And several thousand square meters of dead fish. But this is just a small fraction, back to the story, a small fraction of even larger global issue. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization, the FAO, estimate that 35% of all fish, crustaceans, mollusks harvested from the oceans, lakes, and fish farms are wasted or lost before they ever reach a plate. Simply put, are you as a business owner willing to eat a 35% loss before you even get a chance to sell the product? That's where you're going to make your money. If 35%, all right, I'll go on. Fish are highly perishable and fragile, which makes them more vulnerable to waste, a problem that is compounded by the hemorrhaging fish at every step of the supply chain. Fish waste is especially shocking, says Pete Pearson, Senior Director of Food Waste at the WWF, because they are wild animals, so we are harvesting wildlife. Fish populations are already threatened by overfishing, pollution, and by the climate crisis. With current rates of fish consumption projected to double By 2050, waste is increasingly on the radar of regulators. We have to do something about it, says Omar Penarubia, a fisheries officer at the FAO. There's a nice little chart about what's pulled out of the ocean, what ends up being wasted and distributed.
I'm with Courtney on this. The headline is very misleading. The story is not as disastrous as I was hoping.
Oh, wait, because this is
Oh, okay.
this is getting into global food supply chains. And let me tell you, we're overfishing everything.
Yeah.
Right?
I thought that's where this was going.
This is exactly where it's going. And the governments, we love to give subsidies, right? And just like in farming, we love to give subsidies. Guess where those subsidies end up going? To the biggest, the most greedy companies that don't need the subsidies, and they certainly don't go to where they were supposed to go, to the smaller fisheries in this case, right? So what happens? Although subsidies, this is back to the story, were historically devised to support small-scale fisheries, today 80% of the 35.4 billion euros in annual fishing subsidies goes to a handful of industrial fleets. These include gargantuan bottom trawlers that are uniquely equipped to travel out to high seas and overfish, leading to discards on an industrial scale. Basically, the loss of people, a loss of fish in this is food for 3 billion people. And in a fascinating twist, the story goes on to not just say, hey, there's this problem because we're overfishing. It goes on to say, we're not just overfishing. We're not using everything that we have. The story tells like they're just now beginning to innovate and using existing fish byproducts that could be turned into new products. Fish heads, fins, and bones from the fishing industry are already a source of fertilizer and feed. Innovators are now finding uses for everything from fish skin for burn treatments and crustacean waste to make biodegradable packaging. The idea of full utilization is something that needs to be pervasive across all food supply chains, Pearson says, but he cautions he can't overstate the solutions. Unless fish byproducts replace a share of fish demand, they are simply making use of waste, not reducing it at its source. So it's a really brilliant idea saying like, okay, we know we're overfishing. Part of the problem also is the supply chain is that everybody wants this fresh fish, right? Nobody wants frozen fish. So there is no supply chain. They call it, oh man, it had a really nice word for it and a nice phrase, but like basically the cool storage supply chain. Not enough people have enough capability to refrigerate and or freeze or keep things frozen in this regard. So it's a nice story from the Guardian from today actually, but millions of tons of fish, millions of tons. Makes you wonder, why are we spending money to give to these big companies that are just throwing food away? Why? So that's that story.
Hold on. Now,
Willem! Poopy trim. Brody, man. What's going on? What do you work here now?
Oh man, just calling it TS.
Yes, I saw you on TV. I think it was on Baywatch.
CNN, Willem.
Oh, yeah. Didn't you kill the Pope or something?
Got a musket tangled in my girlfriend's hair, for Christ's sake.
Oh,
What are you doing, Willem?
looking for the hidden picture.
If you stare at these things long enough, you're supposed to see some kind of hidden three-dimensional picture.
Oh, yeah. Look, it's a sailboat. You saw it too? Damn it!
What?
I've been staring at this thing for a week now, from opening till closing, and I can't see a goddamn thing!
You gotta relax your eyes.
Everyone sees this thing except me. Today's my day. For a lunch and a soda, and I'm not going to leave until the soda bar is going.
I
So,
brought a lunch and it's
Well-
I'm not.
would you happen to know what this stage business is all about?
It's not a stage! I'm going to see it if I have to go blind trying.
Oh man, this stage over here.
Oh, that thing? Having some game show in the mall today.
The mustard stains on his shirt.
Yeah.
Truth or date or something.
Oh my God, that's Brandy's father's game show.
What is it?
Well, it's this cheesy dating game ripoff thing. It's supposed to be for college kids. Just trying to capture the 90s youth market with a staple of 70s television.
Man, why can't they bring back or remake good shows like BJ and the Bear? Now, there's a concept I can't get enough of, a man and his monkey.
Would you guys shut up? You're breaking my concentration.
Sorry, Willem.
Now I have to start all over again.
Good luck with that thing, Willem.
Yeah, man, remember, relax your eyes.
Wow, a sailboat.
Shut up.
Classic Kevin Smith. When, it might be a little misogynistic at its time, but the guy's made amends. Another great Twitter follow. Somebody who certainly understands his place in his works place in his life.
Poster for a few seconds. A hidden picture appears. Can we do it, please? Please.
Oh, right, go ahead. But hurry, Easter Bunny's waiting.
Wow, it's a schooner.
You
Dumb bastard. It's not a schooner, it's a sailboat. You know what? There is no Easter Bunny! Over there, that's just a guy in a suit!
Too many hours lost on the couch laughing over and over about that. And like one of my favorite quotes, that guy is back on the escalator.
That kid.
That kid.
Not a year goes by. Not a year. I don't read about some kid whose parents didn't give a shit, who gets his leg caught in an escalator and has it ripped off horribly.
Ladies and gentlemen, that can only mean one thing. We know what you came here for. We're going to give it to you. It's time for the lightning round. Welcome to the Thunderdome, ladies and gentlemen. You are now seated in the world's most dangerous chat room where 3 stories enter and 1 gets read. It's like the WWF. Except you vote on it. And there's no dilly-dally here, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to get right to it with headline number 1. Crews tackle ferocious fire at Harlow's Sausage Factory.
Okay.
Headline number 2. I punctured my lung by eating cereal. Headline number 3. Man who received landmark pig heart transplant may have died of pig virus.
oh man. First of all, number 2, I'm worried about because I eat cereal. So that worries me, and I do want to hear about that. However,
we're gonna allow Mr. Ryan Hansen to do the headline remix. So while we're doing that, we'll let you guys vote too. Headline number 1. Crews tackle ferocious fire at Sausage Factory. Headline number 2. I punctured my lung by eating cereal. And headline number 3. Man who received a landmark pig heart transplant may have died of pig virus. So there are your headlines, ladies and gentlemen, for May 9th, 2022. You go ahead and vote. We will contabulate and analyze, put it into the old algorithm. We call it the Bozo computer. And we'll come up with a winner. We're going to read that story. That's what we do here.
looks like
we got cereal lung. We got like cereal lung. It's like aqua lung. Serial killer.
Ma Jordan.
Stepping in. Happy Mother's Day, Ma Jordan. We'll vote for number 3. We've got real Billy Wag coming in. We got another vote for that.
I agree. And Chris, number 2, I want to find out, is it grape nuts that did it? Because grape nuts definitely will fuck up the top of your mouth. That's for sure.
Pig HIV. I love pig.
Oh, yeah, here we
Sausage
go.
is fire.
Sausage is fire. Killer Captain Crunch and Pig HIV.
Pig HIV. I think we've got a winner as we got. It's gotta be grape nuts.
Number 2 gets another vote, but it looks like number 3, although that evens things up, I think.
We're kind of looking at let's see, you got 1, 2. We're actually number 2 is pulling away here. There's only one.
Captain
There's only 2 votes for story number 3, so I think we have a winner.
Stand up. The guy that plays Squirrely Dan,
Yeah.
Letterkenny, he
Yeah.
has a great stand-up bit about Captain Crunch and how in Canada there's only one version of Captain Crunch, while America has 4 versions of Captain Crunch. Let me see.
That's my complaint about Kit Kats. Because if you've ever had just look up like Japanese Kit Kats, oh man, they have all the flavors. And I'm not kidding, like all the flavors. It's not fair. You would think like here in America, you'd have the Kit Kat flavors of the world, like mocha and mint and strawberry and all kinds of fun stuff. But no, now we're just starting to experience that. But they have whole vending machines just full of different flavors of Kit Kats. Fucking awesome.
I have the bit ready. It's like a 5-minute bit. So do we want to watch it, or do I want to just let you guys know that it's out there and you should?
Yeah, just look up our good friend Squirrely. I forget his name, but he's a Chicago comic.
Yeah, I've got the whole thing.
Because we've got. Look at him.
To escape the winter, I went down and did shows in the States. I learned something down in America. There's a difference between Canadian and American foods. That difference is Canadian food isn't actively trying to murder you. Everything in the States was insane. It looked like it had been dipped in batter, rolled in butter, and had a Mars bar hidden in it. The biggest difference between Canadian and American foods can be found in the cereal aisle of the grocery store. I don't know if you've been in an American supermarket recently, but Canada as a nation is getting screwed over on sugar cereals. They've got things we've never seen. When I was down south, I counted 4 different types of Cap'n Crunch. 4. We have 1. We have regular Cap'n Crunch. That's it. You know it and you love it. Red box, blue uniform, white mustache. It's the Cap'n. He does not hold a naval rank of any kind. It's right there on the box. CAP''N. Cap'n. That is a nickname at best. Actually, I guess here he's Capitan Crush. You guys gave him full honors. Personally, I don't trust the French side of the box. I don't understand why sounds are different in French. You tell me that now I'm in Quebec, if I bite into a biscuit, I'm gonna hear a cruche? I know what crunches are. You can go screw yourselves. If you've never had Cap'n Crunch, it's a delicious cereal that hurts your face. 3 main ingredients in that cereal are sugar, crack cocaine, and fiberglass.
All right, I'll pause it there because it's halfway through. But.
You eat a bowl of that cereal, it will shred the roof of your mouth like you are eating Brillo pad cereal. You are already pouring another bowl because you're addicted and you can't stop. They have 4. Number 1 is also regular Cap'n Crunch. It would be weird if they didn't have that.
Check it out. Just type in Squirrely Dan Cap'n Crunch. All right, sorry, I stepped on you there.
I've never had Captain Crunch.
Ever?
Ever.
Fuck out of here, Brooks.
Dead serious. Mom would not allow sugary cereals into the house.
Right, but in your adult life, you're just not like, My mom wouldn't allow me to have it, so fuck it. I'm having some Captain Crunch. Oh, Brooks, you need to have Crunch Berries in your life immediately.
I can't even tell you the last time I had a bowl of cereal.
Oh,
Period.
man.
I'm old. I can't have that dairy. I can't have that dairy. But yeah, okay, all right. Get the trifecta going here. Like, let's figure out something else Brooks hasn't done. Like, peel his eyes open and watch Saturday Night Fever because I haven't seen that movie. But you guys voted, and we need to
steel cut oats for breakfast. You're that.
I barely have breakfast anymore.
God damn it, Brooks! Now next week, I think we have to have you eat a bowl of Captain Crunch live on the air and give your review of that.
If it's anything like having a burnt mouth from like having like the pizza, like you tear your like I don't know. Thanks. Why would you do something like that? It can't be that good. Like a bowl of Kix would do the same thing, and that's what we had back in the Brooks household. A box of Kix, Kix.
Yeah. Speaking of great mess, I was the same way. Ma Jordan did not allow a lot of sugary cereals in the house, and we ate grape nuts and frosted mini wheats. And frosted mini wheats is as close to sugary cereal as we got. Every once in a while, Ma Jordan would break down and get us frosted flakes or something, but they would last 40 seconds in our house.
Be like a lot of Rice Chex, Cheerios, cornflakes. All right. So mom did get nuts. She went a little crazy and allowed Frosted Flakes.
Frosted Flakes. There you go.
That was it.
That was the one that if we were going to get a little crazy. But my mom wouldn't do it because me and my brother would literally race to eat as much cereal as quickly as possible. A box of cereal in the Jordan household back in the day lasted less than a day, less than 8 hours in the Jordan household. An entire box of cereal gone.
So one of my favorites was it was Quaker. It was like 100% natural. It was basically like granola cereal, right? Yeah. And you pour some of that in a bowl of milk, and you just you have to let it, like, you can have it fine. That's all nice and crunchy. But if you let that seep in, you get this wonderful, almost oatmeal-esque, but it's granola. It was really good. It was one of my favorites. I 100% natural. That's what I grew up on. All the other kids, we had Rice Krispies. Everybody's like, "Hey man, we got like toys in our fucking cereal. It's great." I'm like, "Yeah, I had some cornflakes and some bananas sliced in it."
Billy Whack has a box of Quisp autographed by Brooks.
Yes, I did autograph. I which I've never had, so I feel inauthentic. I haven't autographed that box of Quisp.
Honey Bunches of Oats is also very good, underrated for like a cereal that is not. It's sweet, but also falls under the healthy category.
We had a lot of Raisin Bran back in the house.
Yeah, I'm not a raisin guy, so.
Yeah, Raisin Bran. Like I could go for a bowl of Raisin Bran. So let's, yeah. So I gotta tell you the story because this guy.
Yes, we veered way off.
Off, and they voted, so we got to give the democracy that they want. This is also from The Guardian. This a first-hand account. Accidents happen all the time. I play a lot of sports in Melbourne. When I'm finished with my master's degree and potentially storming towards a mixed netball grand final, I've broken my back, dislocated my kneecap, torn my groin, and had appendicitis. But it was a piece of cereal that gave me my biggest scare. I was 16 on a family holiday in Malaysia in 2015. My parents and I were staying at a resort on the East Coast, and my dad and I just went for breakfast that morning. We were keen to wolf down a quick breakfast so we could reserve a spot by the pool before it got too busy. Dad grew up in Malaysia, so we used to visit quite often. Blah, 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 blah. He was there to have a bowl of honey stars. It was a tradition of his. They were honey-flavored star-shaped pellets of sugary goodness, a treat for a growing teenager. He had them every morning on the trip, same way, without milk. Never got on board with the milk and cereal bandwagon because it made everything too soggy, though soggy wouldn't have been the end of the world concerning what happened next. I was about a third of the way into my enormous bowl when suddenly, mid-mouthful, I felt an excruciating pain under my left shoulder. It was as if somebody had come from behind and stabbed me. Within seconds, my moaning and groaning caused heads to turn. My dad kept telling me to pull myself together because half the resort was staring at us. It sounds like what my mom would say. But the pain wouldn't let up. So I decided to head back to my room and try to sort myself out. While walking back, I must have looked like I was drunk 15 beers. I was trying to walk straight line, but kept kneeling over every few meters. Once in my room, I spent the next 20 minutes writhing around on the floor until the pain stopped as abruptly as it had begun. Over the next week, I experienced shortness of breath going up and down stairs. When I tried to hold my breath underwater, I could feel a little bit of pain in my shoulder. I didn't see a doctor because Mom told me our family had a history of adult onset asthma, but the description of the pain sounded consistent with what had happened with my aunts when they first had an asthma attack. So we decided to sort out my asthma once we got home. 7 days later, while we were in Singapore, Dad went to the hospital for an ear infection. I was still having spells of shortness of breath, so I tagged along. After an x-ray, the doctor discovered a piece of dry cereal had made its way into my lung. And to everyone's amazement, caused a puncture. This is a quite common thing. He experienced what's called a pulmonary aspiration. It's when you inhale something into your windpipe and into your lungs. The excruciating pain he was suffering is because his lung had collapsed, which is what's called
my God!
pneumothorax. Paulie Tomaselli in the chat room. Ladies and gentlemen, right on. Thank you. So he ate cereal so fast. Let me sum this up for you because he goes on, and it's all great and everything. Sum this up. The man inhaled his bowl of cereal literally.
Right. Like me and my brother used to inhale a bowl of cereal. My mom can attest. Like it was the closest thing to inhaling. This dude literally inhaled his.
Literally spent a week in the hospital as doctors put in what we call chest tubes into his lung to reinflate his lungs.
Oh my God. That is nightmare.
Clearly did not chew, and it probably wouldn't take much because the lining of the lung is very, very thin. Think like a balloon. Like literally, that's what your lungs are. And they're just as thin and very, very soft, very, very fragile tissue. So yeah, even if what were they? Honey stars? Yeah, honey stars.
And you're in a foreign country. That's the other thing. He's on vacation in a foreign country when this.
Oh, it gets better because apparently he flew back home. Which, if you have a pneumothorax and you fly and you get to a certain altitude, you're going to die because your body will not be able to deal with the pressure and your other lung won't be able to keep up with the oxygen needs. You will literally slowly suffocate. And the doctor kind of told him this. They got really lucky. Within a few, this was all a self-narrated story. So back to the story. Within a few weeks of arriving home, everything felt back to normal. Unfortunately, I punctured the same lung last month during a netball game, but this time I got it sorted out straight away. Sir,
stop.
Just
what are you doing?
Stop. You almost killed yourself eating cereal. Why would you play anything like rugby or any kind of anything? Just stay home and eat.
Yeah. By the way, Osiris in the chat. There's a chat there. There are multiple feeds. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. We're on multiple Facebook feeds, both on my page and on Brooks's page. I'm not sure who you're, where you're watching it through, but yes, thank you for joining us. Please share it with your friends and let them know how much fun we're having here, and we appreciate you being along for the ride.
And you're exactly right, Mr. Ryan Hansen. And we call that a pneumomediastinum, is when air escapes the lungs into the thorax, which is the upper chest cavity, and your abdomen is your abdominal cavity, right? So when you get air into there, that can cause a whole lot of pain and a whole lot of problems as that air kind of puts pressure on things it doesn't really want to put pressure, like your aorta and heart. So, wow. So if that wasn't, if that story about a dead fish and hundreds of tons of dead fish wasn't an ELE story, maybe, hi, Osiris. And yeah.
I'm curious. This is a new name that has not popped up, and they're not friends with, not a recognizable name. Osiris, if you don't mind in the chat, that's why we put the chat up on the screen for everybody, because everybody's coming from different feeds, so you can kind of feed along. But I'm curious, how did you find us? How did you stumble along this silly little show that we call Topic Thunder?
As we stumble, yeah. Well, how did you stumble into the internet saloon that we call Topic Thunder? which we do every Monday, usually without fail. Sometimes life kind of gets in the way. Sometimes, but this is what we do. We have an honest conversation about some hard hitting topics. We try to be very respectful of everything and everybody, and the input we get from you, the world's most dangerous chat room, is what drives the show and makes this whole thing better. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for another journey on the SSS Rapapa. We appreciate you all kind of hanging out with us. Thanks, Ben. And thank you to you. Thanks to Biz for coming up with that awesome song that opens the show. And check that out too. Oh, if you did just stumble upon it, man, thank you so much. Come hang out with us again because
every Monday night, come join us again, Osiris. We love having you a part of the conversation.
It's better than Raw. It's better than Nitro.
There is no such thing as the Easter Bunny. That guy over there, the guy in a suit.